Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg. For this week's CinemAddicts, it's not going to be a full-fledged episode due to the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a little bit more of a dead period. Next week for July 3rd, I was checking not too many, if any, screener links for me, Bruce, and Eric, movies for us to cover. As over at CinemAddicts, we cover a lot of indie-driven stuff, a lot of mainly indie-driven stuff. That said, for the week of July 3rd, there will be coverage of 2 Patreon-assigned picks. Bruce has his own pick for Patreon. Also, Eric and I will be, I forgot what movie we're going to be covering next week. I think it might be the thing from, it'll be the Lavender Hill Gang from Stephen Schrock. Thank you, Stephen, for that pick. So it's going to be a big Patreon week for us next week over on CinemAddicts. And of course, our assigned picks will be for next week's episode as well. And then Eric Holmes, this week he saw the new Angelina Jolie film, Couture. I don't know why I was thinking of Couture, but Couture is a new film with Angelina Jolie that Eric Holmes reviewed. He'll have a review of it come Monday. So next week's episode will come a little bit early because of the July 4th, or the July 4th weekend will not have a lot of big movies for next week. There is a big movie, though, for this week that I'll just very quickly talk about. But the crux of this episode is to give props to director Uwe Boll. His new upcoming, I look here, it says upcoming action thriller. It's not really upcoming. This email is from a couple of weeks ago. Citizen Vigilante, which stars Armie Hammer. It's been a huge, I don't know the numbers for it, but it's been getting a lot of comments and split reviews down the middle. Eric liked the movie. He gave it a 3-star banger. But over on our CinemAddicts YouTube channel, that Citizen Vigilante interview that Eric did got a lot of views on the video side. But I decided to release that Uwe Boll interview of Citizen Vigilante for this episode on the audio level. All right. So currently Citizen Vigilante, which stars Armie Hammer in the lead role, it is now available on all major digital platforms. And here I'm going to read the press release because I still haven't seen this movie. Should be very interesting. I eventually, when I have the time, I'll get around to watching Citizen Vigilante. All right. Quote, inspired by real-world incidents and cases, Citizen Vigilante explores crime, public safety, media narratives, and society's growing fascination with vigilante justice. The film follows an American businessman living abroad, that person's played by Armie Hammer, whose campaign against criminals turns him into a social media phenom by placing him increasingly at odds with law enforcement. All right, here is Eric's interview with Uwe Boll. Also, just as an added bonus, close to a couple of years ago, Eric interviewed Uwe Boll over for his movie First Shift. It's a cop movie that both he and I really enjoy that. We reviewed it on CinemAddicts. I interviewed Uwe, and that interview's over on the Find Your Film podcast. But I never put Eric's interview with Uwe on CinemAddicts. I don't believe. I tried to look it up. It wasn't there. I didn't put up the audio version. So you're going to get Eric's back-to-back interviews with Uwe Boll for this episode. First up is his interview with Boll for Citizen Vigilante. And the next, you're going to learn a little bit more about First Shift. That is it. Thanks again so much for listening to CinemAddicts. Next week, we will be back with a new show. And I would love to hear what you guys think of Citizen Vigilante. Does the movie work for you? Take care, guys. I will leave a digital platform link over at Amazon. Whatever you purchase on Amazon, we receive a slight commission as Amazon associates. Also, good news this week for us. We finally surpassed the 1,000 subscribers sub mark over on our YouTube channel and on CinemAddicts. So that was a big, cool moment for us. Thank you guys so much for supporting us here at CinemAddicts. And yeah, we'd love to hear what you think of Citizen Vigilante as well as First Shift if you haven't gotten to it. All right, take care. Have a great week watching movies. Bye.
I'm here with Uwe Boll. I talked to you before on First Shift, and you got another banger on your hands. This one seems a lot more angry at certain parts of the world. And I think vigilante movies are weird because I think in real life, there's obviously some problems with that, but as a story and as a movie, it's really cathartic to watch stuff like this. What's your thoughts on all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think, look, vigilante stuff in general is one of the oldest genres. Dirty Harry, Death Wish, but also Western. Tons of Western are this revenge against injustice. And I felt I want to do a movie what is a little more non-fictional, John Wick or whatever, they're just completely fictional and made up. And I was very mad about all the knife stabbings and gang rapes and so on in Europe from Islamistic migrants. So that's a fact. And then it's in the statistic clearly like visible that this went up like this in England and France and Germany. And a lot of times there is no prosecution. It's all the poor migrants, whatever knife stabbers are out of jail in 6 months. And you feel, okay, but then there's a risk for the population. That's the same. It's different to be, let's say you have the mafia. The mafia is not randomly stabbing people in a train. So that's a totally different form of crime. It's a random crime, what our public spaces in Europe make very unsafe. And we have these Christmas markets now with the cementing security everywhere. And when I was young, you couldn't, there was no security on the Christmas market. It was completely safe. And I have to say, there was a case in Hamburg where this happened. The rape situation in my film is based on this case, and where nobody went to jail for. And I got very mad about this. And the judge said basically the real victims were the rapists, because nobody took care of them when they came from Afghanistan and Syria into Germany. So our social services failed in helping them to integrate. And think about what that means for the victim. If I'm a father of a 15-year-old girl and she gets gang raped by 10 people, and then I have to hear in court, the rapists are good guys. They're like they felt bad for the rapists. And now they are free in the same city, almost in the same blocks where this girl still lives. That's a fact, right? So they are not incarcerated. And I feel like as a father, there are two options. You move away or you get rid of the rapist, right? So that's the thing. That's for me, like crystal clear. And yeah, I wanted to make a very mad movie, like an accusing movie of we losing our culture, we losing the state of law. It's get completely moved aside. And all under the thing, we have to be open. We have to be like, whatever, let everybody into the country. And totally forgetting, you need to vet the people who are coming in. You cannot just assume everybody is great who comes into the country. You have to watch out for psychological problems, crime, and so on. It's almost ridiculous how we get let alone by the government in regards of this migration crimes.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it is in Europe, but I know here in America, stuff you're saying can certainly be true, but then you also have people in the government doing that very thing. It's like the people in charge that should be helping with that are rapists themselves.
The US, where this guy stabbed that Ukrainian girl from behind in the subway in the neck, and she was bleeding out. It was everywhere in the media in the US. So that guy was like 15 times arrested before.
Yeah.
And then he was a danger to society. And based on lenience, the judges always think, and then finally, that girl was butchered. And I think that's ridiculous. I think that's completely insane that violent crimes, in my thinking, need to get very harsh sentencing. And that's a totally different thing is if you do insurance fraud and you get 8 years in prison, and then you do a knife stabbing and you get 1 year probation. And I just don't get that it's out of proportions in comparison. And that's what I don't get, how this happened in the US, but also in Europe, that real hard crimes where people getting badly wounded, hurt, or killed are now excusable offenses. He was under medication, he didn't take his pills. Yeah, but it doesn't help the victim. Why she's dead, she doesn't get the answer. She's just dead. And that's the thing. It's for me that all of this is ridiculous and needs to change.
Yeah. To the point about the fraud is one's taking money from a billionaire corporation and they're protected. So you can't have that whenever you get an actual victim. It's they're not paying the bills. So we're just going to sweep that under the, sorry. Now I'm getting angry.
That you have too. My Assault on Wall Street movie was about this white collar money crime happened in the 2008 mortgage crisis, where the bankers got richer. Even if the banks went bankrupt, they all got the bailouts, and the private citizens got bankrupt. Oh, too bad. Now we take the house away from you. And it's this, sometimes I think films have to get done. Think about Falling Down, for example. The first half of Falling Down was a blast for me. I could totally identify with McClintock, and it was just, I celebrated it so much. Unfortunately, they made him the total psycho in the end. I would like that he would be the hero of Falling Down, that he would win it, that he would win the day. But I think they felt they have to be more politically correct. That's the reason they made him in the end a psycho, basically.
Yeah. So were some other sort of visual inspired you or got you going through the making this? You already mentioned Falling Down. I was thinking Boondock Saints is a similar situation.
Yeah. And Dirty Harry, Death Wish, Once Upon a Time in the West. A lot of Western are also like this. The old Clint Eastwood stuff, Charles Bronson. And I like this setup that you have. There are always two options to it. You have a personal reason, like something like your family got killed and you go after them, or the more like regulators who come in and in general fight against the bad or the corrupt and so on. And I always like these movies because a lot of times they're also underdogs and then they grow on the occasion. But I feel with all the Gerard Butler and then John Wick, I think they got too soft. They got all about is the action. But I'm not so excited anymore to watch 15 minutes martial arts fighting. I just want also a story I can engage with and be excited about and connect to. And for example, I love in Citizen Vigilante the scene in the bus with the kids who don't pay, that they just go in the bus and they don't have a ticket and nobody says anything. Besides the bus driver says, I'm not driving the bus as long as you don't pay. In the real world, he would drive. In the real world, he would just go over it, right? So, and then comes Armie Hammer and basically, in a way, threatens them, but also tells them, if everybody would be like you, there is no bus. That's the thing. If there's no taxpayer anymore and everybody's on social services, there is no country. So that the one is important for the other one. And I think that's like really important to know. I personally have an inner accounting with every person I know, like that I try to not owe people something. I try to even this out. If I owe something, I pay it or I help somebody. And I think this kind of feeling is now away. I think a lot of people don't have that anymore. A lot of people think we give it all, whatever, right? So, but that leads to chaos and social unrest and also to an absolute decline of our civilization. And the people are not aware of it. So when that's in Europe, even way worse as in America, I have to say. Maybe under Biden it was like this, but in Europe, they never cut corners in whatever a building in Peru, whatever. Germany spends so much money around the globe. Ukraine got hundreds of millions, billions, and so on. It's like we give the money to everybody, but to our taxpayers, we say, unfortunately, you have to pay 3% more tax next year. I think, but if you would not throw the money in the wind all the way around the globe, we could pay 3% less taxes, right? But that doesn't come in their mind because it's not their money. They're getting paid no matter what, and they give it because the taxpayers will have it. And I feel that you see also in judgments in Citizen Vigilante, where you have this rapist getting free and the victims are not getting protected. That's the whole point I made the movie.
Yeah. Speaking of, I want to point to the casting. You got Armie Hammer, obviously, but you also got Costas Mandylor, and I love Costas and his brother Louis Mandylor. So anytime they're in a movie, I'm like, I put this in my face right now. What was the casting process like on this?
Yeah, look, Costas, I had him in my movie Run with Amanda Plummer and then James Russo. It's on Paramount Plus at Showtime right now, and that's the first movie I did with him, and I love this guy. Right, so he's so a good actor. He's so good prepared, and he's a real trooper, right? He always WhatsApps me like, oh, what's going on? Let's do something else. And then for me, when I needed that Interpol agent, I called him right away and said, look, Costas, I have a good part for you. You want to do it? And he said, I'm in, without ever asking what it is. And then I put him in First Shift Part 2. So I shot this TV cop film from New York, First Shift, and it was a big hit on Paramount Plus. And so I shot First Shift 2 and 3, and he is a bank robber in First Shift 2 and takes hostages in a bank. So I did 3 movies with him in the last 2 years because I enjoy so much the work with him, right? He's a great actor, but he's also a great human being and super supportive. And he likes how I work. And with Armie Hammer, I was in a way lucky to get him because he was like canceled for a while. I hope he comes really back now. And he's a strong lead actor. He almost played Batman. He Man from Uncle, Lone Ranger. He would be perfect as James Bond. I think better as any other candidate. But that will not happen, let's say it this way, with this cancel culture now on everything. But Armie was super prepared. He was disciplined, a super trooper, no attitude, no extras, not always my personal assistant. It was really like he felt in line, basically. And I think he brings enormous screen presence to the film.
Yeah. And I think his character, you mentioned Batman, and his character, there's a lot of similarities between his character in this and Batman, because there's probably a little darker version, but Batman's certainly a vigilante in his own right, probably what he's most known for.
Yeah. You know that my first title was Dark Knight, and then Warner Brothers called me.
Nope, we're not doing that.
Exactly. You want to be in court or you want to change the title, right? But there is another movie, Dark Knight, from I think in the 60s or 70s. So I don't know if Dark Knight is actually a trademark possibility because Batman is. But Dark Knight was just, it's of a nickname of Batman. And what is if you would shoot a movie, what is in the medieval times, and you have a knight who is completely with the black armor, and you name the movie Dark Knight? I don't think Warner Brothers could flip out on it. How? It's not really a label to Dark Knight. So you can do a movie Red Knight and nobody would care. So why you cannot say Dark Knight? That's the thing. But I didn't to have a long dispute with Warner. Instead, I said, okay, I changed the title. And I think the title now is actually good. Citizen Vigilante fits very much the political landscape right now.
Yeah. And Citizen Vigilante comes out this Friday, so everyone can check it out. And then you said the First Shift 2 and 3 is done now. It's just waiting to be released, or what's going on with that?
We are almost with the post-production finished. And I think in 1 week, both parts are ready to roll. And I hope that Paramount Plus will put them up. And I'm discussing right now with Paramount Plus. And it was a big hit, the first one there. So I'm optimistic that it will be on Paramount Plus.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to those. And congratulations on Citizen Vigilante. Hopefully it gets people riled up and angry like it did me, and then in all the right ways. But it's great talking with you again, and congratulations on the movie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm here with Uwe Boll, writer and director of First Shift. I saw that you retired and you came out. I believe this is a second movie you got coming out. But this movie is markedly different than the ones I'm used to seeing from you with House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, Postal, which is just an insane masterpiece. But this is, it seemed like a buddy cop movie, but it's just a hangout movie in a way. And I really like how the two characters in this just kind of go back and forth. What was your approach to making this one? So
what happened is that the little episodes in the film, like the mafia thing where they killed the son, the suicide of the murder-suicide kind of thing with the brother from Kristen rented, they were all little stories I wrote a few years ago, but they were not connected to a film. And I was thinking the whole time, this is not enough, or the old guy gets a heart attack and the dog is alone. So I wrote ideas down, but it was not connected to a cop film. And then at one point, because I'm not a fast writer, so a lot of things I'm sitting on for months and sometimes for years, I had the idea, what if I move that all to New York? What if I move it all in a cop film? And there are only the side stories, not the main stories. The main story is, in a way, a classic situation where a guy doesn't want a partner and get the partner and has to handle the new partner. That is how First Shift came. And I love New York. I could never live there, but I love New York to be there from time to time. And so I always wanted to come back after Assault on Wall Street. And we did some stuff on Alone in the Dark 2 in New York. I shot 2 advertising clips in New York. So I always wanted to go back to New York. And I think here was the perfect opportunity.
What was the casting process like getting Gino and Kristen together? Because, I mean, buddy cop movies like this kind of live and die on the chemistry of the two leads.
Yeah, so Gino was the first guy I hired for the whole film. And I did a casting call. And he emailed me, and I looked at his credits. I know him from various shows, Shades of Blue and so on. And I emailed him, I said, look, you really want to do the film? I don't have a lot of money, so it's not like you get a lot of money for it. And he left the idea, and then we worked together very strongly on the script too, like how the people talk. He is from Philadelphia, so, and I cannot write English dialogue. So, I can put the bullet points in, and then he wrote it all. And then Kristen knows him from something, and they started chatting about it. And then we were like chatting all 3 together and developing these characters together for at least 6 to 8 weeks. And it was a lot of fun, and they brought all their personality in it. And that turned out very good. I mean, a very good experience for me in regards of working with the actors on the characters. And how I wrote the original, it was a little different. And I think Angela was a darker figure. She was like this kind of also a little more depressed in a way. And she made it she's just a positive person. And I think that was for the film gold. I think it plays very well. It's very entertaining to watch the film based on these 2 characters.
You mentioned that writing takes you a while. What's the kind of hurdle that you got to climb? Do you have trouble coming up with the story or interacting with the characters, or what do you stumble on with that?
No, it's like sometimes I have ideas, I write them down, but I recognize that it's only a short movie, that it's not a film. And then sometimes it happened to me on my film, what I'm in post-production now also Run is a film about the migration crisis in Europe. It's also like I put some bullet points down or some ideas, and then I work on it. But a lot of times my surrounding story or the big story of the film comes later. And in the beginning are only just scenes or a character. And I think that is maybe unusual. I know a lot of writers, they have first the story and then they have the main story straight, and then they go for the little side angles. And sometimes in my case, it's different. So, but yeah, and as I said, I'm not a person. Sometimes I write something and I'm really jumping in, and I can write like a maniac. And then it's poof, it's gone. And for 3 weeks, I'm just like, then I don't really know how I continue with it. I have at least 4 or 5 scripts for 10 years unfinished in my computer, and I don't want to read them anymore. Let's say it this way. I know there are some good ideas in, but it's like this kind of, there was too much for me, too much stress to continue with them.
Yeah. And so when you retired, you started a restaurant. And my co-host Greg interviewed Michael Pare a while ago, and he mentioned that the 2 of you bonded over food and cooking.
Yeah.
Is that still a passion? Is that still something? Why leave that? It just seems like so much fun. Or do you still do the restaurants and the films at the same time?
No, the restaurant was closed at COVID. And I had a clash with the landlord too. And in the very end, I think it was a good step to close it and to not reopen. So we saved a lot of nerves and money in just closing right off the bat. But it was a good restaurant, a higher end restaurant. And Michael Pare is a learned chef, right? He can really cook. Like in a restaurant, he worked in a restaurant when he grew up and when he was younger. So, and he's a big foodie, me too. And when we shoot together films, we always try to find out the best possible restaurants to check out and so on. And he cooked for me. I will never forget that. I don't know what film it was, but he did coq au vin, like the whole chicken in the pot, and he did that all at home in his rental apartment in Vancouver when we were shooting something. I think we shot Postal or something, and it was amazing. So he really can pull it off. I'm a hobby cook. I cook at home too, and I have some dishes I'm really good at, but I'm not like a professional cook in any form. I just
So what are some dishes that you can cook that it's like, I got this. You guys put the forks down. I got this one.
Of course, I'm good with spaghetti and stuff like this, like some noodle dishes, but I'm very good with like some classic German dishes like sauerbraten. I don't know what that is, but it's a big roast and you put it in a pot for 4 days with vinegar, red wine, apple juice, spices, and it's sitting in that thing. And then you put it out of the pot and you grill it very brown, very dark brown. And then you put it back in the pot and you simmer it for 6 hours. And this you eat with red cabbage and potato dumplings. The sauce is to die for. It's the best sauce, classical German thing. I'm very good in that dish, but it's a winter dish. In summer, you sweat like a pig. You cannot do that in summer. So, but in winter, it's very nice. So yeah, that's it. And I mean, the retirement came when you see the status quo of the 2016 situation. Blockbuster died, DVDs and videos died. I saw it was not a retirement because I didn't want to make films anymore. I didn't saw the light on the end of the tunnel, right? I didn't saw, okay, but how you ever want to get money back if you make a film without video rental or video sales, Blu-ray sales. And at that point, streaming was not the solution. It was not so big. It came, but it was not like basically there where it is now. And I think then streaming got so big that I felt around 2020, 2021, I felt like maybe I should try to make more films because I just love it. I really missed it. It was like all my life I did films and I always wanted to make films, and I got really depressed about it that it's over. And I felt, no, then let me try to go back in the business.
And what's the business plan now? Because I had a friend that Anderson that made a movie, and he says that Amazon has made more money off of his movie than he ever did. And it just seems like that's kind of the case. Like, how you put a movie out, how do you make money?
No, I unfortunately have to agree. It's still unsolved, right? Because when the Amazon and Apple and the streamers taking your movie on after you filmed it, they don't pay you a lot of money. They give Ryan Reynolds $250 million to shoot a film, but when they acquire your film, they give you 50 grand or $100,000 for a year. So the key is now, I think, to bring a movie out, to get some advertising going. Basically, how Quiver is doing with First Shift, you get a few movie theaters, you try to get the movie out there that people know about the film, and then you hopefully sell like on SVOD and pay TV and so on to cable channels the film, and you make slowly your money back. So, but it's still, in a way, right now, I know a lot of people in Hollywood, they're like in a crisis mood because a lot of filming doesn't happen now. It's like it came to a crunch after the strike was over. Now it's 25% less production as I think last year. So it's a problematic situation. And I think the good thing is it got cheaper to make films because the computer effects are cheaper. The equipment is cheaper. You don't need a lot of lights anymore. I mean, the cameras, like a Alexa camera and so on, they are so like you can basically film without any lights everywhere. It got cheaper. The technical aspects to make a film got cheaper. And that is a good thing. So, and then if you find actors who are willing to also not getting overpaid and supporting independent films, then you can do something. So, and that is what I want to do. And so the plan is that I do every year a film. That was my plan. I mean, I did First Shift and last year, and this year I did Run. And so, and then hopefully next year I can make another film.
Is there any future as far as doing physical media and something like this, or is that just more trouble than it's worth at this point?
No, I tried that every film of mine comes out on DVD and Blu-ray. I also hope that Quiver is doing it. We just released a Postal on 4K with Massacre Video. So, and Blood Rain is also on 4K now. So we used old 35mm prints to do a new version. And they are in North America on Blu-ray and DVD available. I love Blu-rays and DVDs because I like to do my director's commentaries and making offs, trailers on it. So I'm a physically guy. I love it to have something in my hands. And I wish the DVD has a comeback like the records have, the music LPs, like the long player records. So maybe it comes back. I know there are still a lot of people, they love it. In Germany, the market is still okay. It went drastically down, of course, but here regularly, basically all the movies are also still available as DVD and Blu-ray in Germany. And in most of the countries, unfortunately, it's not the case.
Yeah, that's definitely more of a boutique thing nowadays than its heyday. But I also got to agree, like with the behind the scenes and the director's commentaries, like that's, if you don't have it on Blu-ray or DVD, you just don't get that anymore. And sometimes when you get it on Blu-ray and DVD, it's not on there anymore, which is also kind of strange.
Yeah, and then also like things like when you see now how much stuff Warner or also Paramount, whatever, removing Disney, they're removing things from their streaming platforms. So now you don't have necessarily access to it at all. So the point was from them to say, you don't need any more DVDs or Blu-rays because we have it all there. But it's not all there. It's not like all movies Paramount ever made are on Paramount. So how you want to keep then film history alive in a way. So I'm very proud of my DVD and Blu-ray collection still, and I'm happy to have them, and I will never sell them or something. And I think it's a good thing. I recently watched Apocalypse Now again, and like stuff like this, and it's just amazing. And the quality is also extremely valuable still. It's not looking bad or something.
Okay. Well, you mentioned removing scenes and movies from streaming, and the case of Warner Brothers, they removed the movie before it even comes out. So isn't that nice?
I know they did that various times now, right? And I think there's are tax reasons or something why they do this, because otherwise it's not really understandable. If you make a film for $50 million or $70 million, to not show it at all is insane. To maybe not bring it to the movie theaters, that is understandable if they think they have not a good film. But to not even stream it, that is just unbelievable. But that happens now various times. Even Netflix, I think, didn't show the few of their films they produced.
Yeah. Well, Uwe, kind of want to get an idea of what's a movie you've seen recently that maybe might be real personal to you, or a movie this movie's real good and I wish more people would see it. Just some movies you can kind of pull from the dark corners and kind of shine a little light on them.
I like The Killer from Finder, for example. I liked the film because it was a little different as I saw it before. I'm watching, unfortunately, a lot of films with my kids. So, I went in Twisters and whatever and Minions and stuff like this. But I cannot say that these are like my favorite films. A lot of times now, for example, I just watched Banshee, the whole 4 seasons, because Ulrich Thomsen is in my film run. And I don't know if you ever watch it, that HBO show. It's the Amish people, mafia, whatever. And it's super brutal. I was very surprised that this was on HBO, because that is a harsh NC-17 TV series. And it's way more brutal as Breaking Bad was and stuff. But that had a real impact on me. The way they did the violence was very ruthless. And I liked that. So, I mean, it's tough to say. A lot of films coming out, a lot of Oscar contenders where you watch it and you feel, I'm not so excited about the films how I was about the films of the 90s or 80s, the Goodfellas and all these kind of films that made me way more excited as a lot of the films I'm watching right now. A lot of CGI and effects, and they look fake. A lot of times they just look fake. And I'm more of a different generation. I like Heat, Ronin, this kind of stuff. And films like this are not really getting out there right now.
No. And I guess we'll just end on this. Not including First Shift, but what would you give a quick top 5 Uwe Boll movies? The top 5 movies that you did, these are the ones.
Postal, Darfur, Attack on Darfur, Assault on Wall Street, Rampage. And it's like Stoic was very strong, but it's very brutal, very claustrophobic also. Tunnel Rats is a good film. The Vietnam War movie, I liked it a lot. Yeah. So, but I mean, the Postal was the biggest fun for me to shoot, and I'm very proud. Today, I watched a docu of the Running with Scissors guys. They made a whole documentary about Postal, the game, and the film, and they interviewed me, and they showed me today the 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the film part in the docu, and it was just hilarious. And it was so funny how the actors now talk about it. Zach Ward, they were in the interview, Larry Thomas, and so on. And it was very entertaining to watch it. Postal was a blast to shoot. And we had it in a German movie theater playing a few weeks ago, and I watched it with audience that laughed their ass off. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, Assault on Wall Street, Darfur, Rampage, I think are great films, but they're very hard. And it's nothing you want to watch over and over again. But I think Rampage and Postal turned in these two cult films I made. And the editor from First Shift, Ethan Manikis, he did Sin City and all this kind of Robert Rodriguez films. And I met him basically in a bar, and he said he loved Postal and said Robert Rodriguez loved, but they all loved Postal a lot. And I think Postal is loved by a lot of people, but it stayed totally underground, right? Did you ever saw Postal on Netflix? No. You know, it's the thing. It's like, it's this kind of film everybody know and everybody kinds of love, but nobody really wants to identify with it. Like from the big streamers, for example, I think they're all scared to show it because it's harsh, right? But it's funny.
I think in a way that's in that lane is kind of what makes it remain kind of a cool thing. Because like once something gets pulled from obscurity into the mainstream, it's, yeah, we've heard that. But then Postal's still that, ooh, have you seen Postal? Let me show you this. And then it's like, opening this dusty treasure chest and shiny Postal comes out. It's like, what is this?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. When I go to a convention or something and sign DVDs and people coming with the DVDs, you can really say 50% of the DVDs I sign are Postal. And I made 36 films in my life. And that one film is 50% of the fan base coming in and saying, look, I want your signature. And they're all coming out when you do Postal 2 and when you do this and that. And I said, look, I'm happy to do Postal 2, but somebody needs to invest. They have to give some money to make it. So, and I know one thing. If you would Postal out on Netflix tonight and under new releases, it would be a smash hit. It would get very fast, I think, through the roof because people would start watching it and think, it's kind of film where you have I think the opening with the pilots of September 11 was shown on YouTube, 28 million views for the opening of Postal. So it would have an audience.
Yeah. Well, Uwe, thanks for joining me. Everyone go see First Shift in theaters, on demand, and digital, August 30th. I really enjoyed this movie. I just watched it again tonight. And thanks for joining me, and hope to talk to you again on the next one.
Thank you.